Sharing live stream. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay. So let me just,
Let me just double check that we're live on YouTube.
okay, thank you so much.
We are live.
Woo! How exciting. Okay.
Have a great
So,
meeting.
oh,
Meeting
thank
at 9
you.
o'clock.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for all your help. So
Mhm.
welcome everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 10th. This is Queens Community Board 2's Arts and Culture Committee meeting. Very exciting. Happy March, which is Women's Month. It is St. Patrick's Month. It is so many celebrations during this time of year. So I want to start at the top of our agenda. We have some very special guests here this evening joining us from CB12, their newly formed Arts and Culture Committee. Um, this came out of an effort that was supported by the Borough President's Office and the Community Board Office, Michael Carlier and Phil Ballman, and of course, Borough President Donovan Richards. They were receptive to my thought of wanting to convene all the arts and culture committees or the committees that house arts and culture affairs across all the community boards in Queens. And we're so excited that CB12 was able to form an arts and culture committee out of that convening. I also had heard not too long ago that CB14 also formed an arts and culture committee. Yes.
Yeah, that's not my job anymore. No, I was going to meet with them and say, hey,
Yes.
baby, this is perfect. Thank
Yeah,
you.
very exciting. And yes, so hopefully we'll have them come in. We should all join each other's meetings sometime. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
So yes, so we wanted to give you the floor. Like, tell us how that process went and what y'all are envisioning for the activities or discussions in your committee, and how could we help?
How long have you had one? Let me just ask you that.
That's a great question. Kenny is my predecessor. Kenny, how long has Arts and Culture Committee been around? You're still muted, by the way.
A while.
A while.
While. Okay.
So was there? Were you the first chair, Kenny, of the Arts and Culture Committee?
Yeah, it's sort of. Steve Cooper and I cooked it up a while back,
Okay.
and I don't know if there was actually a chair at that point, and then yeah, I became the first chair, I guess. Yeah,
Okay.
ancient history.
So
I'm gonna say like, well, wait a minute. It probably was like a year or two before you came on the board.
oh, really? Okay. Okay. So let me think. So a little over, maybe almost 15 years, like maybe
That's kind
12
of what I'm
years.
thinking. Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Very
yeah.
cool. So I guess this committee's been around for a little over a decade.
Yeah, but it's only become cool since you've been running it.
Oh my goodness. I only learn from my predecessors, but I think also just learning the density of artists in our district, it became really important to try and loop them in to even just visiting our meetings. Of course, an eventual step is to have more formal representation of artists on a
That
community.
that's a that's exactly right. Because what we were challenged with in the first couple of years was just trying to figure out who's out there, and trying to figure out ways to bring people in. And what I think is really great is that we kind of have that forming more and more and more now.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I think what what we've ended up doing as part of a function of our committee is, if anybody on the board in general, or ourselves, if we came across anyone in the district, like on the street or anything, and we learn that they're an artist or they have an arts organization, we would just invite them to come to committee and just introduce themselves. That's how it's sort of grown. And then as issues came across our district, especially at the intersection of land use, and housing and education and parks, all the places where arts and culture lives, we've sort of seen that it's become a more and more integral issue to make sure arts and culture is properly included. So that's where we've started. But how about you guys over in CB12? What neighborhoods does that cover?
Hollis, St. Albans, Jamaica. What did I forget? Hollis, Jamaica, St. Albans.
All of
Rockdale.
Jamaica in Southeast, like the Ozone Park area. Yeah. It
So
covers
you
all
said
of
you
that.
have a good organization in the Jamaica Arts Center.
Yes, we have
Look at
connections
that.
with them as well. Yes, we're connected with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's good to hear that you're just inviting people in that are artists, because we've been doing the same thing. And like when we hear about artist opportunities, we've been also making sure we share that as well. Yeah.
Can I read you the visions?
Yes, please.
We didn't have any way to know how to get started. And so we did a chair and co-chair. That's Shanae and I, because we figured this was going to be bigger and grander. And we both are busy. And I knew we needed help. And I'm so glad that Shanae voluntold accepted my request to help me grow this, because we both are artists in the community. So initially, I thought we needed some kind of description of who we are. So I came up with these things. These are not like written in stone. These can evolve. Okay, Community Board 12 Arts and Culture Committee will engage and cultivate initiatives that make art and culture a priority. The Community Board 12 Arts and Culture Committee will connect artists, organizations with resources and community members. Community Board 12 Arts and Culture Committee recognizes our rich cultural legacy and will continue to support and preserve its traditions. And the fourth one, Community Board 12 Arts and Culture Committee will review proposals for new arts and cultural projects within the community. So that was how we are starting. We are only into what, meeting 2, Shanae?
Only 2 meetings so far. Only
How
2.
exciting. That
And-
sounds great.
Yeah.
Those visioning points sound great. That was actually, we had a similar charge asked of all of our committees a couple years ago, when Mr. Maury Gallinoy was our chair. He wanted all the committees to kind of come up with a mission statement of sorts.
I
And
need to
so-
spy on yours now.
Well, actually, so we put ours at the top of our agendas.
Okay.
And
That's a good idea.
it's very similar to what you say about wanting to kind of connect artists to resources. So many of our artists are independent and small organization, and they don't really know how to navigate city resources. So we've tried to inform ourselves as best we can so that we can in turn inform the artists. And what that has also resulted in is being able to invite different agencies with arts programs to come present at
Like
committee.
Like-
So like DOT Art,
Okay.
or maybe like the art department, I don't know the exact name, but maybe like the art department for the New York City parks. We invite any entity that presents grant funding opportunities, especially for Queens artists. So for us as a borough, that's going to be Flushing Town Hall, and that's also going to be New York Foundation on the Arts, because it's those are the only two that really allocate funds for Queens specifically. But really any funding, like especially if it's administered, or any calls for artists too,
Yes.
especially administered through any city agency. We've also in the past tried to connect artists to like the Department of Education to figure out, for example, how do they obtain a vendor number so that they can be a teaching artist on a roster, or How can artists learn more about fiscal sponsorship? Or we also, that's a really interesting one that you guys mentioned about being able to be a body that helps review like public art proposals. I think that that's something that we can also do at our committee. We try to do it sometimes our bids. So we have two formal bids in our district, one in Sunnyside and one in Long Island City. And sometimes when the bid does an art project, you know, community board can be an entity to help either spread the word or maybe help, you know, do community input on which project should be selected, that type of thing. But it seems very much aligned with what you all are saying. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I think that's important. Did you contact the politicians directly, letting them know that you existed? Because that's what I'm considering. Or you may not have had to, or you don't know because you weren't there when you guys initially started. Because I want to make sure our politicals know that we exist, because it's a new committee. Are you frozen?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think our electeds are aware that we exist. We probably interact with them more over land use issues, but we have interacted with the council member over the again, it's somewhat land use related. The reason I raised my hand was I was going to bring up the fact that we've actually had a few situations where we've entered into negotiations of sorts with developers, and that is sometimes has involved the council member. You know, for example, there was a developer has actually offered a space to the community board, and we spent a lot of time like working out kind of the details of what the structure of that should be. And then the council member was involved in that as well. Did we actually reach out specifically and say, hey, yo, we're here? No, but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't.
Okay.
I think we've lost Carisha.
Yeah, she was frozen for me.
Yeah.
She'll be back.
Take over, Kenny. You've done this job before.
How you working on it?
Eric is the vice chair, so.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
Eric.
you have a
Sorry,
vice chair
Eric.
too. Good. Ha, we know who you are now.
I'll text Carisha and see.
How busy do you find yourself right now?
You know, yeah, and I mean, certainly you want good relations with. Excuse me?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish what
Are
you're
we all
saying.
frozen now? Yeah.
You're not, for me.
Oh no, I was going to say that you know we're
Hey, Kenny
I
and
think part of the
folks, I can hear
challenge
you.
with a community board committee.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
Eric,
Part of the challenge is
I
that
can hear you. Kenny, I can hear you.
I don't know. We missed that. Say that again. Somebody was saying there was an
He
issue.
said I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, okay. And so what I was saying is that in terms of you know, there's a fine line between supporting activities that are public activities versus private activities. We've gotten into that issue sometimes. Personally, I don't see a difference, you know, but you know, we've certainly, when we do our budget, I don't know how your community board does budget, but we now look for input from each committee as far as budget goes. So this committee has prepared some budget priorities to go into the annual budget requests. So that
What was the budget
that's
used
again
for?
not directly.
What would the budget be used
Well,
for?
what did we
Yes.
put in? Eric would probably be more up to speed than that.
In general, it's not specific. I'm just kind of just to find out what we need to ask about.
We
Eric,
actually,
am I right that there? Yeah.
yeah, we suggested anything that would be useful in terms of us being able to table. So kind of collateral, a new banner, and we also made an inquiry about how the office allocates its advertising budget, if there was any funds that we might be able to use to help either promote our outreach or kind of get the word out to artists and arts organizations that we exist and kind of get the invitation. So we're not just relying on formal invitations from the board office to get the word out. Gracia, we were just talking about the budget requests that we had suggested in terms of budget priorities that the committee might support.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I think my internet had dropped. Yes, I'm not sure if that's something, I hope all boards do that, but there is always a budget process every year that involves all the chairs of the committees. But I think this year our treasurer had thought it was a good idea to ask for more specific budget requests, kind of representing each committee. So it was the first time we had an opportunity this year to really think about, from a community board standpoint, the types of budgetary requests we could ask for. So we'll see how those land.
I mean, one of the things we're kind of almost always involved with, and I assume that development is going on in your area the way it's going on here as well.
Lots.
It's just trying wherever we can to carve out potential space for performance, for gallery, what have you, and see if we can work out, kind of make that request from developers as part, particularly when they're asking for a lot of extra floor area and extra benefit for their projects. We look for benefits that they can give back to the community, and so we push very strongly for a presence of the arts, and we've been, I would say we've been moderately successful.
What in
Yeah.
particular? I'm curious.
Well, Carisha, maybe you want to describe what you're working on right now with
Well,
with
yeah, and unfortunately, it's an age-old tale, very cyclical, especially in Long Island City, but I'm sure this is everywhere. But with the one LIC rezoning, because we discovered through the ULURP process that there really wasn't any proper mechanism that not automatically, but that properly analyzes and bakes in arts and culture consideration, the way that schools are considered, the way that green space and community facilities are considered. So we've really been having to just advocate as best as we can and really bridge relationships with developers to get them to understand the value of arts and culture, but also the responsibility of properly investing in a neighborhood that they're going to profit off of, where there is a historic, presence of artists that really started to identify, or rather to define, the neighborhood. And also in Southeast Queens, there's so many artists there and such deep history that I think also garnering the support of land use committee, and really getting other committees on the board to also see how integrated arts and culture is, to help uplift the purposefulness and the power of your committee, especially when you have an undeniable population of artists that you're going to be representing. So it has helped to get land use to kind of support us when we're trying to speak up. So that's anything from, rehearsal space, like folks need rehearsal space. Hi, Crystal, welcome. Or gallery space, or literally having developers commission and purchase art from our local artists. Thinking about public art, or asking developers, if you're going to build green space that was part of your deal, then let's make sure that green space can also be adapted to have art and culture happenings in that space. this has been there's been so many iterations of this battle. I'm sure, our Kenny has other ways that this has manifested, and I'm gonna put my public member Ejo on the spot. They have a space that is donated by a developer.
Mhm.
But that's all also, we're still trying to fight for those preservations of spaces, because everything is subject to change with the rezoning. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, this is so helpful. I am so grateful, especially to Crystal for making sure we got together. Um, I think if as we work together as arts and culture committees and we learn from each other, we are even stronger. That's why I'm so excited that Community Board 13 has an arts and culture, because they're our neighbor.
Yes,
I'm really excited.
me too. We should always keep in communication. When are your committee meetings?
The first Wednesday
First Wednesdays.
on at
Okay.
7. It's with
Yeah.
Parks. So we're tied with Parks, which is good.
Okay. Yeah. We should all go to each other's, we should all take turns going to those meetings.
I think
Um,
so.
It'd be very fruitful.
It also helps, keep our borough-wide electeds accountable, because now they're going to know we're all talking.
Yeah.
And especially since I believe is our deputy speaker, your council member, Dr.
Yes.
Natasha Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. That is
One of her committees is culture and something, I believe, isn't it? One of hers. Yeah.
Yes, she is the chair
Yeah.
of arts and culture now. So I think that'll be even better for her to pay attention to what's happening here. Yeah, that's wonderful.
And if each of the communities and committees keep their I hate to say their knee, but really kind of like put pressure on the developers to do the give back, right? Because they're making money. So I love what you said, like you were able to get a space donated, but if they show that that's not just in that area, it's every area, then they will begin to make it a practice.
Yes.
Like
And
we have to demand something,
right.
but they're getting a lot.
Yeah, it's very true. And what I really hope, and I don't know if this really falls under the parameters of community board, but all we can do is like speak up, right? And we're always asking, I think we need zoning incentives. We need better zoning incentives so that developers are actually coming to the table with real, proposals, because we've been learning that they're not going to do it unless someone makes them do it or something makes them do it.
Right.
So yes, please keep in touch with us about how has the rezoning, like what's it been feeling over there in your neighborhoods with the rezoning passing on your end too?
Well, speaking to a lot of the community members, it's been feeling like a loss. And then it's a loss, and I'll say also displacement, because like where is the culture? Like when you're walking into the areas, like what is it? Where is it? And I will use Jamaica Avenue as an example. Like, they just had a farewell ceremony for the Coliseum that has been a staple for how many years?
So sad.
So
yeah. Why was there any attempt to preserve that space at all, to repurpose it, or?
I don't know. And if so, they lost. But I don't know if there really was a push for it, unfortunately, because you have all of the stores that were across the street that were kind of bought out already, and then they're redoing that bus station. So once that whole sector closed, that block kind of just fizzled out.
And information is hard to get, and it's hard to get people motivated until the last minute or after the last minute. It's always, I didn't know.
Yeah, right.
Oh, and then it's
and
I don't know if you're finding it in your locations in Queens, but Queens is sleepy when it comes to getting things done. I don't know whether because we're a bedroom community, we're considered, a bedroom, but there isn't that fire that you might find in Brooklyn maybe, or Harlem. There's just, I know that I'll be swinging night and day to get people motivated. I think they go home and shut the door. And
I think it's also I think it's in the interest of the developers, and sometimes when the politicians are tied in with the developers, that to not to kind of push it through without people really having a lot of input to it.
Yeah. Um,
We had,
yeah,
we had a process, we had a long process here that was purported to be, you know, community involvement, et cetera. But a huge amount of people feel after attending all the meetings that it was not especially responsive. It didn't, you know, it was sort of more like a, you know, like a dog and pony show. But that's not a reason to not be involved and to not be on top of things. And, you know, because um, if you're quiet, nothing gets done at all.
Mhm.
hmm yeah, we've had to squeaky wheel it the entire way. We've had to just be the ones that are like always showing up at meetings, finding out where they are, asking all the questions in the back. Like it just seems to be the only way we've incrementally been able to get some sort of attention that to send the message that we are paying attention. Go ahead, Ed Joe. Sorry.
Kenny, are you talking about one LAC or
Yeah,
zoning before us?
I was talking about one LIC as well as almost everything before that, you know,
Right.
but I mean, I just want to insert before, you know, I don't want to interrupt whatever you wanted to say, but just I like to see our artist community as doing a huge favor for developers who don't
Mhm.
understand our value.
Mhm.
And what we're doing is we're sort of leading them to something that's better than what they were planning on doing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But how does that conversation even start? Like, we're lucky because Plaxall's family grew up in this neighborhood and they care about it. The developers that are going to be coming in are mostly coming in any of New York neighborhoods. They didn't come from this neighborhood. So why would they give up any profit whatsoever to give back to the community? And after the building's built, is that developer even going to be here anymore? Like, what could we possibly do to make the developers care enough to give something back to the community? Because they're the ones that are going to be fundamentally changing the fabric of our neighborhood. And everything that Carisha and Kenny's been saying, we went to all the meetings. We made sure arts and culture were represented at every single one. When they would put up all these big giant bulletin boards and maps of the neighborhood, they wanted people to participate, and arts and culture were one of the bulletin boards that they put up. It was actively trying to be incorporated, and it didn't make the final cut, not even a mention for arts and culture. So the city isn't going to do it, because we gave them an opportunity to include it in the plan and it wasn't included. The developers don't even know the neighborhood. Why would they give anything back? There's absolutely not one single incentive that we were able to identify. So we have ideas, but like as far as CB2 goes, arts and culture, what could we do to make the developers give something back?
So what we've also learned specific to the one LIC rezoning is it's very much led by the council member. So your council member that was part of leading the charge with your rezoning is going to be instrumental in making sure that there's arts and culture in the future planning. The stage that we're at right now I mean, the ULURP already passed, but the stage that we're at right now is that our council member has been forming an oversight task force, very similar to the oversight task force that was formed with the Gowanus rezoning, which is a slightly different project. And it was also very much spearheaded by council member, I believe, Brad Lander at the time. So that there was community input and representation to make sure that the promises that were made by city agencies and also by development projects are being held accountable by community members. But that oversight committee has not yet convened. It's not been announced yet. It's still in the process of being, I think, finished as like who's going to be on it and what third party entity is going to be moderating it. So that's where we are. We're hoping that there's going to be an arts and culture subcommittee on this oversight task force. Like that's supposedly the plan. And we're hoping that we can be a very strong thought partner in trying to offer ways that these development projects can integrate arts and culture in not just the design, but perhaps in the programming or whatever their future plans may be. Because once again, they were not forced to do it. So we're just continuing to just be there, to just be, scratching at the door, trying to not be forgotten, essentially.
There's an irony here in that one of the reasons one LIC came about was because we were sort of saying, well, we don't want spot zoning, where we feel there should be a comprehensive take on the entire neighborhood. But ironically, I think we were kind of better off when we were individually negotiating with individual developers. Because now we're completely cut out of a much bigger, zoning that's enforced now, and it's done.
And how do we even get a hold of the developers who are like, so you own a little crappy 1960s building, you want to sell it to a developer, how do we know who that person is? Like, how do we even negotiate with them that they should be giving back to the community?
Right. Yeah. So all of that, those are all really valid questions. And all of that has ended up having to happen, to Kenny's point, almost on the private side, like essentially just people trying to meet and trying to negotiate something outside of any city mandate. I think because we have been so vocal as an artist community here and putting a little bit of communication pressure from the council member team and city agencies like Department of City Planning and things like that, we've made sure that we ask like, for example, the council member's office would let us know, like, hey, there's this project, and try and like connect us. But that was all just out of relationship building. And then we're sort of left to talk on our own. Sorry, my children are screaming. Go ahead, Adjo.
Oh, where are they? Bring them on camera. I think something that this oversight committee should be trying to do is make sure that we're able to have access to any developer coming into the space. Any developer coming into the space should be identified, and we should have access to them. And then there should be some way of because there will be no government pressure, and the building owner could or could not care, right? So I think that there should be some way of, we've talked about this before, and I do not mean to use the word shame, but publicly celebrating the developers who are actually giving something back to the community. And to have a complete list of all the developers coming into the area and a list of developers we're celebrating for giving something back to the community. And the developers who aren't giving anything back to the community are still on the list.
Yeah, and another initiative that has happened between real estate and arts kind of out on our own is trying to make an arts and real estate. We've had like these arts and real estate meetings where we're trying to build the relationship. And again, incremental steps to try and get the two sectors to understand each other and find ways to work together. So those are all the things that we've been working on. Are there any other questions or comments that anybody wants to put forth before I would love to keep talking, but we do have to keep pushing for the agenda.
I'm fine.
Yeah, okay.
think this is our first time for me.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I'm good.
we'll make a point, to also come check out your committee meeting as well.
Yeah. This is good. The wheels are turning. Like I'm literally searching for like answers to Edro's questions. So I
Mhm.
made notes. So I'll swing back around with that.
That's
If
probably
not
gonna be
today,
our
at some point. But yeah.
That's going to be our
Yeah.
universal question for all of us.
And
Yes.
I'm always happy to brainstorm with other groups, organizations. I like, I mean, if there was more of us doing it, it might be more acceptable.
I
Or
agree.
it might be like a more tour de force, like, Mr. Richards would, that's something he would pay attention to if multiple community boards were getting together, all
Mhm.
saying the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, I don't know, maybe that's the step. Get all the Queens community boards together
Yes.
and say, this is what
Yeah.
we demand from these
Yes.
developers, or if anyone's coming into our neighborhood, they need to participate with our community board. And we want to know, like, if you're building, if you're doing anything, if you're changing something, if you're changing the skyline, you got to give something back to the community. Now, there's no mechanism to make them do that, but like, I wouldn't want to look at all you guys and say no or say
Right.
nothing, or, like, I mean, to put a face on it.
Mm-hmm. But how are they, so you see when they come in with like all this development, like how do they get them to agree to even doing, let's say, 20 or 30% of affordable housing?
Well,
Like that's a
because,
part of some of the agreement as well, right?
well,
So
yeah,
how
I
did
mean,
they get that?
Kreesha and Kenny are much better suited to answer, or Eric are much better suited to answer that question. I mean, there's mechanisms in place to give the developer incentives for all of these things. If you're
Exactly.
building a school, there's a mechanism for that, right? There is no mechanism for arts.
But everybody wants it.
But everybody, well, they say they want
They
it, but
say
then
they
they
want it,
don't
but
do
they don't
it.
want to pay for it. Let me say that. Yes,
Or they don't want to hire the artists in that said community.
that too.
Yeah. And I think oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna ask, is it an option, thinking about what Edro was saying for the meeting, can we meet with like the Department of Cultural Affairs or city planning to talk about how we want to see culture and art incorporated into development?
So in terms of inviting folks to committee, we have found, because sometimes these are broader issues and it's hard to get them to come to a specific community board meeting as opposed to like something that they can address citywide or something like that. But we have found, like, if we talk to let's say a grant officer at DCLA that can talk directly to your committee about a little bit more information about the grant program or how to apply, things like that, then that can be an opportunity. We are also planning on having another borough-wide convening of arts and culture committees. Michael Carlier from the community board office said that it can be sometime in the spring. So hopefully that'll be another opportunity. I'm sorry, hold on.
Yeah, because we can invite them to that meeting. It's a great idea.
Yes, and I think the more collective we can make our messaging, the better. And I think we're also going to start seeing some changes because City of Yes has passed. And there was also the law that Eric Botcher had signed that will allow housing to be built specifically for artists. So I think there's some advocacy things that we can really try and collectively get momentum behind as a borough of arts and culture. But we'll keep each other informed as we find out these things.
I think that's
Yeah.
very important that we reach out, and we already are in formation before that citywide thing. I think we all need to be already having relationships and conversations so we don't have to be brand new. It's so hard,
Absolutely.
to meet with people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so, I think it's such a great opportunity that your council member is the culture chair.
Mhm.
So all the artists got to start talking to her. Your committee, she should know your committee now exists, and there
She
are
will. We
artists
have an
coming to it.
appointment already.
Yeah.
April 3rd.
Oh, exciting. Oh, exciting. Okay. All right, y'all. So more to come. Very exciting. Please still hang out at our meeting. We're just gonna keep going through agenda items swiftly. So I also know that we have another guest here today, Farhan Ahsan. Thank you so much for your patience. And I think you wanted to talk about a project, a mural project. Are you still there?
Yes.
But hi. Is there
Thank
is
you
there
so much for
anything?
having me.
Of course. Thank you for hanging out. Is there anything you wanted to share on screen?
Right now, I don't have anything because this is like the beginning of the project. So, first of all, before I begin, I really want to say this was a very passionate talk. I'm really happy to see like people of the community engaged. I've lived here all my life, and I see Community Board 12 is here too,
Yes.
which is awesome because someone on behalf of our project also contacted your board. I'm hoping that they did contact you guys. If
No.
not, you can let me know.
No.
No?
Not yet, no.
Oh, okay, then I'll check on that.
Or you can email
so-
us or directly so we can remind people.
Yeah, so like I was
And they-
assigned
Mhm.
I'll check on it. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Um
We have new people on the board.
so this is basically a project to find the wall anywhere in the city so we can have a mural over it. It'll hopefully benefit the community, like bring people together, clean up some graffiti, anything. So City Arts has already done a project in this district. I think it's by Vernon Boulevard, by the LIC Dog Park, and it's a beautiful mural by the wall. And pretty much we're just looking for another wall in this community. So if anyone has any like questions, concerns, anything, I could answer them.
If you don't mind dropping your website in the chat, because we do save the chat for
Yes.
minutes. And
right.
I now remember this. So this is actually an initiative that we've started in committee for the past couple of years now, but it's really coming to the next step of fruition this year. So we've actually been working on identifying murals or identifying sites of murals throughout Sunnyside to start. And we have now a working list of potential property owners and businesses that would potentially have a wall that would be good for a mural. And our next step there is to contact these folks to see if they would be amenable to having a community mural on their building. And then the step after that would be developing some sort of process to match local muralists to that site and have a community-based mural. So if that, it sounds like that's exactly what you guys do.
That is, yeah.
Do you have a roster of artists that you work with, or could we help introduce local artists and have, City Arts help lead that process with the artist?
Yeah, so City Arts would love to work with that. Like finding the mural is of course the first step, and then obtaining it. And then after that, we would look for artists in the local neighborhood and see what neighbors want on that wall. I do want to quickly say that this is a project with Baruch College, Macaulay Honors as well, where people all across the city looking for a wall. And I would really love it to be in Woodside, because this is like Woodside, Sunnyside, Long Island City, or Maspeth, because my whole life has been in this district. So also, I will be dropping my email in the chat. You guys can email me anytime if you guys think about a wall or really anything.
Yeah, this sounds like a great alignment. Logistical question: when you actually get to the point of creating a community mural, how do you address the insurance portion of it?
So I do want to say I'm not really a part of City Arts, but I am just working with them. But what we've been told is that City Arts will handle all of that, like fundraising, finding stuff, insurance, all that.
Okay, so maybe what we can do is, if perhaps you can help us bring a City Arts person to maybe next month's meeting,
Mhm.
and we can get some more detail on the logistics of getting that process off the ground, because this is definitely something that is very well aligned with we call it the Gates and Mural Initiative, because we were also originally including roll down gates of businesses. But we're starting with the mural portion of it because we actually learned that there may be a city law coming into effect that will require businesses to change the models of their gates. So we don't want to put artwork on them just for them to be removed. So we're starting with murals. But if you could connect us with someone, and perhaps City Arts can also come along with yourself to next month's meeting, perhaps that would be wonderful.
Of course, and I'll keep you guys in touch, like with the details as
Please.
we update.
Yeah, and we would love another mural in Sunnyside Woodside. We would love several of them.
So would I.
Great. Well, thank you. Any questions from committee for Farhan? Okay. I know we also have some of our wonderful arts organizations here. Andre from Kukula, do you have any announcements for this month? You are muted. Sorry, Andre.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Now I was saying it was a really good conversation today. Very interesting. I used to also hang out by the Coliseum when I was in high school, so I'm a lifelong Queens resident. Yeah, that area will definitely be missed. As far as Kukula stuff for this month, we have our next social March 28th. Pardon me, my brain is still scrambled. Was traveling a lot last week. But March 20th is our next social. Usual drill, free class at 8 p.m. Open bar. We're gonna have a couple performances for the evening, and of course, people just getting together and dancing and meeting and enjoying each other, smiling and laughing and everything in between.
Will you please drop your info in the chat again, Andre? Thank you.
Yeah, will do.
And to our guests, Kukula is a New York salsa studio, but they also have a bunch of other dance genre classes, right, Andre, as well as social events.
Yeah, we have salsa, bachata, hip hop and house, and tango that we have right now. Yeah, so we've got a nice range of things going on within the studio.
And where are you located?
We're right across the street from LaGuardia Community College. So
Okay.
47th Street, like if you're between like Van Dam, the whole Van Dam Street area, we're right there.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ejo from Culture Lab, what's happening this month?
Thank you, Cresia. I'm going to put 3 links into the chat. I want to start out by talking about the LIC community newsletter. We started one just for our area. It's only public-facing arts and cultural events. We're not really doing classes. It's more like dance performances and theater. And we want to include every organization within the zip code. And then the idea is that newsletter then gets shared with as many building contacts as we can. Our main goal was to contact building managers in some of the high-rise buildings so that they can share this newsletter with everyone in their apartment. The LIC partnership is also running an arts and culture newsletter, so we're trying to find a way to mix these. The idea is that there's one spot where everyone goes to, there's one link, and then everyone can just post their event on that newsletter. It's an evergreen link, so as soon as someone has the link, what's on the other side of that just constantly gets updated. And this is a service that Culture Lab is trying to provide for the community for free. So if anyone has an event, please put it into the submission form and our guys will get it up as quickly as possible. It is part of how we are facing the rezoning. We want to make sure that there's a unified front for those at other community boards. This might be a useful tool. If you have dance stuff, Andre, please go to please submit it for whatever events that you guys have. So it's a way of showing that there's a unified front, and it just makes it more impactful. The idea is to get butts in seats, basically. And then I included the calendar link to Culture Lab so you guys can see what we are doing on the regular basis. Right now, it's mostly Sunset Jazz. Every Friday night at 8 o'clock, there's a free jazz concert in our front art gallery. And then we have an original world premiere play called Liberty Scrap. And that is playing for 3 weeks. And then we're also trying to do more children's programming. One of the things we hear from the parents around here is there's just not enough for kids to do, especially when they're in elementary school. So we are looking for more children's programming, in particular Sunday early afternoon, late afternoon, something that's children friendly. We already have some pretty good stuff lined up, but we could definitely use more. So if anyone has any ideas on that, please let me know. But please follow us online. We have a lot of really great programming. Most of it's free.
Thank
That's all
you.
I
Thank
got.
you so much, Joe. And also just to clarify, because sometimes the partnership comes to this meeting every month, but I believe the difference between the two newsletters that are rotating is the partnership is focused on membership events, so arts nonprofits that are a member of the partnership, and Culture Lab's newsletter is focusing on everybody else. So we're still trying to coordinate how all that information can comprehensively reach all of the residents in the high rises. So that is also an ongoing project. But Joe, thank you to you and your team for continuing to really put that effort forth.
The goal is for all of us to try to create synergy. How can we help each other?
Great, thank you. Air, I don't know who my phone 15 plus is, but if you have any artist announcements, you're welcome to unmute. Okay. Eric, do you want to give any updates on the culture, the preservation? I'm jumbling all my words. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
I do. Before I do that, though, just one event that I promised Andrew Ronan at Concordia Performing Arts Center that I would put a plug in for. It's the Rough Draft Festival, it's the first performance is starting in 3 minutes, so we'll miss that one. But there's other performances coming up later this week and through the 19th, and just a great opportunity to kind of see emerging theater works in progress and support those creative makers and get to engage with them as a part of those performances. And it's tickets are $10 and it's free for students. So it's a great opportunity to see that sort of thing in our neighborhood. Historic Districts Council, for our CB12 colleagues, just a little bit of background. Last year, we were included in the Historic Districts Council's Six to Celebrate program for Sunnyside and Woodside. And part of that designation, they give us kind of support over the course of a year with preservation work. So as we try to identify architectural spaces and things in the community that we want to suggest for landmark evaluation or just to kind of promote preservation efforts, that they'll support us in that work. Through the end of last year, they did a survey suggesting or requesting kind of suggestions from the community about spaces that might be candidates for preservation. And I met with them 2 weeks ago to talk through some of the results of those surveys. I asked them to do 2 things for us, which was one was to group the nominations based on kind of categories of things, because we had nominations of like some religious buildings. Looks like we lost Carisha again. Oh, there she is. Sorry, didn't see her face. Some planned housing buildings and historic buildings. There's a lot of Art Deco in the neighborhood, so some of those buildings as well. And then some former kind of commerce buildings and things that folks were kind of putting on that list too. And when I met with them, I asked them to kind of prioritize based on what was suggested, what would be the most likely to kind of get a response from the Landmarks Commission. And they'd suggested some of the kind of planned housing and early era kind of development buildings as good candidates for evaluation. So they're going to do some more research to help us with some requests for evaluations. They won't put those forward ready just yet because the LPC doesn't have current leadership right now, so it's not a good time to kind of submit requests for evaluation. So we'll have some time to put those together. But in the course of having conversations with HDC, we've also been talking, as Carisha mentioned earlier, about the murals, the Gates and Murals project, and some of the things that we've been doing that don't kind of fit into architectural preservation, as we're thinking about preserving the culture of the neighborhood, things that might not necessarily have buildings attached to them, and just trying to kind of link together the arts and cultures that's around in the neighborhood. So they talked to me about a conversation they had with the folks in the creative placemaking program at Pratt. And apparently they were looking for neighborhoods that might be seeking some partnership and working with some of their students in their advanced seminar course. So I actually met earlier this afternoon with two people who are directors from that program. And basically they said that they were very interested in working with us about kind of looking at linking together the arts and culture that's in Sunnyside and Woodside, and maybe the students could work with us on visualizing that in a map or a website, or doing something that kind of promotes the arts and culture in the neighborhood and makes that more legible to visitors, and helps to Edge's point earlier, kind of helping to foster connections within the neighborhood. So I promised to get back to them by the end of the week with a list of folks who kind of might be their partners on our end. Carisha, I was going to put you on that list as chair of the committee. Dirk as director of our business improvement district, Sunnyside Shines, a contact from Woodside on the Move. Basically, they want to have a list of folks that we can demonstrate to them when they do this curriculum in the fall, that they'll have a kind of a reliable set of folks to come back to for feedback for their students and to work with them on the process. So I assured them that we would be great partners for them, and that there would be an opportunity to work with us. So I'll get that list to them to the end of the week, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe by the next time the committee meets, I might be able to share some good news on that front. But so we'll be doing this work with HDC, and that'll kind of wrap up this spring. But this might be a new project for us to be involved with and get support with in the fall.
I love that. That's so exciting. Thank you so much for leading that effort, Eric, because that also just feeds into, again, makes our argument stronger. Anytime a project comes across the table, we can really dig our heels in and be like, well, look, where arts and culture is recognized by this, this, and this, and it's part of our history. This is great. Thank you so much, Eric. I know we're at 7 o'clock, so I'm just going to roll off a bunch of announcements. Eric, if there's any chance you could possibly find these links as I say them, that would be super helpful. So I did want to make an announcement that the CDF application, so the Department of Cultural Affairs application, is now open. They're doing a bunch of webinars, and there's like informational resources about the process. And that deadline's coming up quick. I want to say that is due like April 2nd. So folks who are up for renewal, or sorry, up for reapplication or is eligible to apply, please make sure you reach out to Department of Cultural Affairs for any further information on that. World Cup is happening. There's been a little bit of a craze around information about any cultural organizations that want to do any World Cup centered programming. There is a grant that's out right now. It's actually due this Friday through ABNY, which I think stands for A Better New York. They're doing grants specifically to nonprofits that want to host public-facing World Cup themed programming, whether that's a watch party or It doesn't even apparently need to be a watch party. It can just be something that's kind of around the World Cup craze that's happening. So that's due on Friday. Flushing Town Hall is having their mapping event March 25th. So they recently released a report from I think it's now a 2-year study, or maybe it's going into year 2, of the information, testimonials, stories that they've collected from different artists and organizations throughout the borough, and have consolidated it into a report that sort of paints the picture of what arts and culture looks like right now in Queens. And they're having an in-person event to talk about this, to hear from some of the entities that contributed to this report. And so that's on March 25th. Let's see, what else did we want to talk about? Oh, just wanted to, uplift things that have passed recently. So the St. Pat's for All parade was in Sunnyside, Woodside this first Sunday in March. That was super exciting. Another opportunity for arts and culturals to have some visibility. A bunch of elected officials always come out, including folks from Ireland that come out and experience this parade. It's a very unique St. Patrick's Day parade. So thank you for our community board for marching in it, and for the arts and cultural groups that came out. There was the borough president had budget hearings. I believe that was last Monday and Tuesday. I, on behalf of my organization, Queensborough Dance Festival, submitted testimony. It's just a really good way for the borough president's office to know who the arts and culturals are and what we're requesting, what our struggles are. But I also did make a formal, broader request that, there be more interagency coordination with arts funding streams, more opportunities that support not just the artwork, but also the artist, and also trying to figure out what the future of a Queens Borough Arts Council looks like, because that is still not quite clear. We're going on year 6 of not quite having a formal Borough Arts Council anymore. Any other update? Oh, and I do want, and if anybody has any connections, or maybe our transportation committee may have connections, but I would love to try and talk to somebody about placemaking in the viaduct, because I know that came up last month. And who do we also talk with at the state level, DOT, for artworks? Because I know Little Manila Park in Woodside has been interested in figuring out how to get artwork installed on that parkland, and they've been having trouble. So those are just 2 things I wanted to put out there in case anybody has any leads on who we can talk to and invite to community board. I think that's everything on my end. And anything else? Yep, go ahead.
If you're talking about putting out public works, we will be of sculpture.
I think so, but the issue is it's state land, so we need to talk to state DOT, not city.
Okay. All right, so we are going to be expanding TF Cornerstone Sculpture Garden. That's over on the water. We're going to be adding more sculptures, and we just have a really good system that passed their engineer's test of how to do counterweight balance for outdoor sculptures, so you don't have to sink foundations.
Cool. Okay.
So
perhaps you can share that with us, and if that comes up as maybe that's a concern. That what I heard from the Little Manila Parks folks is that there wasn't really an art department, so to speak, in the state level Department of Transportation for them to even try and entertain this idea. So I think that could be helpful if we get ahead of those types of roadblocks that we anticipate. And I'm not even really sure what the artwork that this park had in mind. So we can definitely, we'll ask them to come to committee actually, and maybe we do parks, like with parks.
All right. And then I just wanted to comment on what we were talking about. We're going on our 6th year without a borough arts council. Well, maybe if all the community boards had one representative, like, is that the beginning of, like, I don't know, representation or something? Like, could we carry more weight if all the community boards sent one person and say, we kind of represent, right?
Yeah, that's sort of what we've been getting at with this convening of arts and culture committees borough-wide, is
Okay.
being able to build sort of like a real case and representation that this is needed, and it's not just coming from one region, it's not just coming from one person. And that was something that was spearheaded again by the borough president's office with the Arts Culture Queens report.
Right.
But the latest that the office had told us, because I served on that committee with other folks in other parts of Queens, was that they were really waiting for example, the DCLA commissioner to be named and for like the whole mayoral transition to happen. But actually, since now the commissioner has been named, this is a great reminder for me to follow up with them, and I can report back to all of you guys. So thank you. Okay. Any other artist calls, grant stuff that we have forgotten? Okay. I think then we've done it all. We've done everything on the agenda then.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Creasia. You guys always do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I learned a lot.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Oh my
thank
goodness,
you.
we're so excited to have you. We'll
Thank you,
definitely come
everybody.
to your meeting.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Thanks for the
yay.
invite.
Thanks so much. Bye,
We'll
everyone.
be in touch.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.